The sky over northern Germany was a living nightmare. Clouds churned in angry gray swirls, ripped apart by the thunder of anti-aircraft fire below. Flak bursts ripped through the air, sending showers of black smoke and shrapnel raining toward the Ferengian B-17, its flying fortress of the 91st Bomb Group. Inside, the fuselage shuddered violently with each explosion, the metallic groans of stressed aluminum echoing through the cockpit like a dying beast. Sergeant Robert Bob Thompson gritted his teeth, gripping the metal frame of the bomb bay hatch as he assessed the chaos. The B-17, nicknamed Silver Comet, was riddled with bullet holes. Hydraulic lines sprayed hissing steam, and smoke curled from the port engine like the tongue of some vengeful monster. Thompson's training kicked in, but his stomach lurched. He knew how bad it looked. "If this baby goes down, we're all gone," he muttered under his breath, glancing at the terrified faces of the bombardier, co-pilot, and gunners. Captain James "Jimmy" Harper, the pilot, fought to keep the fortress level as instruments flickered and alarms screamed. "Hold her steady, boys." He barked over the roar of the engines. "We're not losing her today." Bob scrambled to the open catwalk in the bomb bay, toolkit clutched in one hand, a makeshift welding kit in the other. The metal groaned beneath him as the aircraft pitched violently. Each jolt sent him sliding dangerously close to the edge, his goggles fogged with sweat and fear. A bullet zinged past his shoulder, ricocheting off the fuselage with a sound that made his heart skip. He swallowed hard, remembering what his father had once told him back in Philadelphia. "Son, you can't fix it, someone dies." That memory sharpened his resolve. The port engine had seized completely, and the hydraulic system that controlled the tail rudder and bomb doors had been punctured. Without repairs, they were sitting ducks, a flying coffin for the Luftwaffe below. "Sergeant, we're losing altitude fast." Harper's voice cut through the chaos. Bob crawled along the narrow walkway, the scent of burning oil and fuel thick in the air. He ripped open the engine cowling, exposing twisted metal, scorched wiring, and shattered fuel lines. It was worse than he'd imagined. His hands shook as he took inventory of the mess-broken control rods, bent linkages, and wires hanging like snakes. Every instinct screamed for him to stop, to get to the safety of the cockpit, but the aircraft depended on him. "Time to make the impossible possible," he whispered. He worked with a speed that bordered on madness, jury-rigging hydraulic lines, using spare tubing, and sealing gashes with wire and clamps. Sparks flew as he soldered electrical connections by flashlight, praying the temporary circuits would hold. The tail gunner, Sergeant Henry Hank Morales, shouted from behind, "You're insane, Thompson. This thing's gonna tear itself apart." Bob didn't answer. Sweat stung his eyes as he tightened the last makeshift clamp. Then he slid back toward the cockpit and shouted, "Try her, Captain. Tail and port ingenuity might just have a shot." Harper hesitated, then cautiously engaged the patched hydraulic system. The rudder responded sluggishly, but it responded. Then he throttled the port engine, and miraculously, it sputtered, coughed, and roared back to life. The fortress steadied slightly, though still battered and wounded. A collective exhale swept through the crew like a wave of relief. But the danger wasn't over. German fighters swarmed from above, Messerschmitt Bf-109s diving with lethal precision. Flak exploded around them, shrapnel slicing the sky. Thompson's heart raced as he raced back to the catwalk, securing loose panels and reinforcing weakened engine mounts. He caught glimpses of gunners firing frantically, tracer rounds arcing through clouds like sparks from hell. "Bob, we re not gone nah. Make it out of here if we dan. T-drop our bombs and head for home," Harper yelled. Bob glanced at the bomb bay. The payload was intact, the release mechanism barely functional, but he had to make it work. Sweat ran in rivulets down his soot-streaked face. One misstep, and the entire plane could explode. With trembling hands, he activated the release cables manually, feeling the resistance as bombs clattered out into the clouded hell below. For a moment, the fortress quaked violently, but the payload dropped. German positions erupted in delayed explosions, shaking the earth below, buying them precious seconds. The journey back to England was a nightmare of noise, smoke, and groaning metal. Thompson moved between the engines and the hydraulic system constantly, reinforcing, adjusting, praying. Every shudder of the plane made his stomach lurch. Every whistle of enemy tracer rounds through the sky made his heart pound like a drum. Hours felt like days. The once pristine B-17 was now a scarred warrior, and the crew's nerves were stretched to the breaking point. But Thompson refused to let despair take hold, kept moving, improvising repairs with whatever materials he had. Each minor success an engine throttled back to life, a stubborn hydraulic line patched brought a flicker of hope. Then came the final hurdle. The fortress port wing had sustained severe damage. Its fuel line was leaking, and the engine could die at any moment. German fighters had thinned out, but flak continued to pepper the skies like lethal rain. Thompson knew this was it. He crawled to the engine, soldering wires, clamping hoses, and whispering encouragement to the metal like a surgeon coaxing life into a patient. At that moment, a deafening explosion rocked the plane flak had struck near the tail. Bob slammed himself against the fuselage to avoid being thrown overboard. Dust and debris filled the air, and the instruments went haywire. But through the chaos, the engine held. The rudder responded. The port engine coughed, then roared. They were still flying. "Captain, I think she's gonna make it," Thompson shouted. Harper, gripping the controls with white-knuckled determination, managed a shaky smile. "Praise God, she's alive." The fortress limped over the English Channel, wounded but airborne. Radar operators on the ground tracked the damaged plane as it staggered across the sky like a battle-hardened veteran. German gunners on the continent watched in disbelief as a seemingly doomed bomber defied the odds, refusing to fall from the sky. When the wheels finally touched the tarmac at RAF Bosingborn, the crew erupted in exhausted cheers. Thompson collapsed, soot and sweat mingling on his face, tears burning in his eyes. He had done the impossible. The Silver Comet had survived against all odds, and every man aboard owed him their lives. Harper clapped him on the shoulder, voiced hoarse from adrenaline and relief. "Sergeant Thompson, I don't know how you did it, but you just saved every one of us." Bob looked at the battered fortress, its wings scarred, its engines coughing but alive, and smiled faintly. "I just did what had to be done, sir. She's tough. I just helped her remember it." The German gunners would later report the event as a miracle. Intelligence officers confirmed the plane had been hit by dozens of shells, with catastrophic engine and hydraulic damage. Yet somehow, it survived. Sergeant Robert Thompson's improvisation, courage, and relentless determination had rewritten the rules of possibility. A single man, armed with tools, knowledge, and sheer willpower, had pulled victory from the jaws of certain death. And in that moment, the crew of the Silver Comet realized the truth of war. Sometimes it wasn't just planes or bullets that mattered, it was the human spirit refusing to yield, soaring higher than any engine could ever take you.